Yes.
I know.
Yes. Yeah, Maria.
Jury.
Maria. Maria is not there. Jury. Okay. The first thing we have to learn
the,
about is
the genre
genre. Excellent. So we have
and
genre. Then writer. What we
who
call him?
made the writer
Author.
and the author
And then
and
we
the
have
question of the week.
question of the week. Excellent. So we have question of the week. Very good. طيب, what is the genre of this story that between your hands? Huh? What is the genre of this story? Is
It's realistic fiction.
realistic fiction. What does it mean, realistic fiction? Yeah, Amal.
A real story.
Read a story. Realistic fiction.
I know.
What does it mean, realistic fiction? Yes, yeah, Jana.
It's a story that maybe it can be happen real.
It can happen in the real life. It's not a real story, but it can happen in the real life. This is the realistic fiction. It's not a real story. It's made up from our imagination, the characters from our imagination, but it can happen in the real life. طيب, who's the author in this story? Huh?
I know.
The author is
Deborah.
Deborah
Deborah.
Trotter. So Deborah
W. Trotter.
W or O?
O-T-T-E-R.
O-T-T-E-R. Okay, question of the week. What is the question of the week? Why
do people make sacrifices for others?
طيب, who can tell me? What do you think? Why do people make sacrifice for other people? Why?
Because they care about them.
Maybe because they care about them. Excellent. What else? Why do people care or sacrifice for other people? Jury, she said because they care.
Because they love them.
Because
it was Maria.
No, Maria said.
Maria. Okay.
Because they care about them.
Because they care about them, because they love them, because they want to help people. They are good people. That's why they are helping them. So there's a lot of reasons why you sacrifice something for other person. Like when we learned the story of Chilen's purse, we learned that that woman, she sacrificed what? She sacrificed her own purse just to make another person happy because she felt that she has so much. So why not to share? So she shared some of her stuff and she sacrificed them for the sake of the other girl, to make her happy and to draw a smile on her face. Did that pay her off? Yeah or no? At the end, did that pay her back? What she
Yes.
Yes, of course. Paid her in a big time, that she found her husband and her son, and she had half of the wealth of that woman, and she started her life again and over again to have a new and a happy life. طيب, let's see the story of the summer trade and what is going on in this story. So let's go together.
W. Trotter. Illustrated by Irving Toddy. Question of the week. Why do people make sacrifices for others? Genre. Realistic fiction tells a story. Notice how the road on the Navajo Indian Reservation outside of Gallup, New Mexico. The early morning sun brought out deep red hues in nearby rocks and yellows and purples on distant mesas. In the passenger seat, Tony barely noticed how the ride jostled him. He had made this long trip to Gallup with his mother many times. This morning, Tony daydreamed about spending some of his summer days at home on the reservation instead of going into Gallup. He would ride with his father, helping to tend the family's roaming flocks of sheep and goats. But Tony needed a saddle before he could sit for hours on the back of a pony. In the trading post next door to the restaurant where his mother was a waitress, Tony had discovered a beautiful used saddle for sale. Its dark leather was worn smooth, and there were small nuggets of turquoise laced into the rawhide braid wrapped around the horn. Mr. Hilson, the owner of the trading post, invited Tony to help out around the store. In payment, Mr. Hilson put $20 a week into an account for him. As soon as he earned enough money, Tony wanted to buy that saddle. He hoped no one else bought it first. "Here we are," said his mother as she parked in front of the trading post. Tony got out and slammed the truck door. The high desert wind fluttered the bandana covering his straight black hair. "Come see me at lunchtime," his mother said. Tony waved as she walked toward the restaurant. The bell on the door jingled as Tony walked into the trading post. "Good morning, Tony," said Mr. Hilson. "Today I need you to unpack some canned goods and stack them carefully on the store shelves. Then you can sweep out the storage area. It's really dusty back there." "Okay, Mr. Hilson." The trading post did a lot of business. Tourists came to buy Indian-made goods, such as baskets, pottery, turquoise jewelry, and colorful woven rugs. Regular customers could buy or trade for just about anything they needed. Navajos could trade or pawn their jewelry in exchange for cash. Some did it because they needed money. Many did it because they wanted their turquoise jewelry to be safe in the trading post vault until they needed it for ceremonial wear. Tony worked hard. There was almost always sweeping to do. Unpacking boxes and stacking things on shelves was a regular job, too. If Mr. Hilson was busy, Tony could help customers. He knew where to find everything that was stocked in the trading post. At lunchtime, Tony went next door as usual. He sat on a tall stool at the counter. Clattering dishes, chattering voices, and cooking aromas filled the air. Merle's Diner was always busy. As customers ate, Navajo craftsmen took turns coming in from their vendor stands outside to move among the tables, offering their jewelry and art for sale. Sometimes Tony's grandmother did that too. One day a week, she came to Gallup with him and his mother to see his aunt's handcrafted silver necklaces and rings set with turquoise and coral stones. After lunch, Tony returned to the trading post. The first thing he saw was a skinny man in worn denims and a black hat looking at saddles. The man picked up the saddle Tony wanted. "How much for this, Mr. Hilson?" he called out. "That's $175, Mr. Hilson answered. The man put the saddle down, but kept rubbing its smooth leather. Tony held his breath. Finally, the man moved away.
Monster Math presents.
That afternoon, Tony spent some time straightening the traditional Navajo rugs displayed on wooden rods in the trading post. With their complex patterns, the rugs took months to design and complete. Tony's grandmother wove rugs and had a loom outside her hogan. When he was younger, Tony had spent many days at grandmother's side watching her work. While she wove, she told Tony stories about the ancient days of the Navajo people, or Diné. He learned about the sacredness of the turquoise mountain, towering in the sky to the east. He learned about Changing Woman and how her twin sons killed many monsters to save the people. He loved the story of how Sunbearer first brought horses to the people. On the drive home after work, they passed Tony's aunt's trailer and grandmother's nearby hogan. "Look, my uncle is home early," said Tony. "There's his truck." "I wonder what that's about," said his mother. "I guess we'll find out tomorrow when we pick up grandmother." Tony's uncle worked many miles away in Chinle, Arizona. His job was driving tourists through the Canyon de Chelly to visit the many ancient Anasazi ruins there. The next day, when grandmother climbed into the truck next to Tony, she explained what had happened. "My daughter's husband broke his foot. He can't be driving tourists for a while. No paychecks for at least a month. He's worrying about his truck payments." When they got out of the truck at Merle's Diner, grandmother followed Tony into the trading post. Her velvet skirt swished as she marched over to the pawn counter and removed her silver and turquoise bracelet, the one she had worn since she was a young woman. Tony stared as she gave it to Mr. Hilson and received some cash in return. Grandmother didn't say a word as she walked past Tony and out the door toward Merle's. On the drive home that day, Grandmother was quiet. One hand covered her wrist where she had always worn her bracelet. They dropped her off at her Hogan. As his mother backed the truck away, Tony blurted, "My grandmother pawned her bracelet." His mother turned to look at him. "That's her business," she said sternly. Tony was worried. He knew how much that bracelet meant to Grandmother. She almost never took it off. The next week, when they stopped to pick up Grandmother for the drive to Gallup, Tony's aunt came out to the truck, followed by Tony's 2 young cousins. "Grandmother is not well," she said. "She hasn't come out of her Hogan for a couple of days. It may be time to call the medicine man." "I'll talk to my husband about it," Tony's mother said. Tony crossed his arms and lowered his chin. He knew what Grandmother needed. "By the way," said Tony's aunt, "she gave me some cash to help with expenses while my husband isn't working. Wouldn't say where she got it." That day, the drive to Gallup seemed endless. When they got to Merle's, Tony ran to the trading post and went straight to the pawn counter. "Mr. Hilson," he said, "I have to buy back my grandmother's bracelet." "You know the rules, Tony. Pawn can't be sold except to the owner for at least 6 months," said Mr. Hilson. "But it's for her," Tony's voice quavered. "She's sick. She needs it back." "Well, since you're family, I guess it might be all right," Mr. Hilson hesitated. "Should I take the money out of your account?" Tony stood up straighter and nodded. "Yes, please. Today." On the drive home, Tony said, "We need to stop at Grandmother's. I have something for her." His mother said nothing, but she turned off the main road and stopped in front of Grandmother's Hogan. Tony got out and quietly entered. Grandmother was lying down, her eyes closed. "My grandmother," Tony whispered. He held out her turquoise bracelet. She opened her eyes and nodded slightly. Tony approached and carefully lifted her wrist. Then he slipped the bracelet back on where it belonged. Grandmother closed her eyes again, and Tony left the Hogan. That night, Tony's father drove over to see Grandmother and talk with his sister about arranging for a healing ceremony. He returned in a happy mood. "Grandmother is better," he reported. Tony closed his eyes and smiled. The following week, Grandmother went with Tony and his mother to Gallup. When they arrived at Merle's, Tony dragged his feet toward the trading post. He had to start all over again, saving for a saddle. He kicked a few bottle caps along the sidewalk and finally went inside.
Okay. Okay, my girls, we are going to stop right here, right now, and inshallah, we are going to continue the next time on Wednesday. Type, the story right here is about a summer trade. What does it mean, summer trade? We are talking about the ancient Indians who lived in America long time ago. At that time, people didn't have money as cash. Like, for example, I will give you gold, you will give me cash. I will give you cash, you will give me cash. No, at that time they had something they called trade. What is a trade? It means that if you need to buy something and you don't have the money and the cash to pay it off and to pay me some gold, or example, or some cash or currency, then I can take something from your home and you can trade it with the thing that you need. يعني, for example, you entered my shop and I'm selling some rice or milk or something, and you need that milk and you need that rice, but you don't have the needed money for that. Then I will ask you, do you have something to sell for me instead of the rice? I will give you the rice, but if you give me something I need, then for example, you will search, oh, I have a watch. Can you take my watch and I take a bag of rice? If I satisfied with that, then I would say, okay, take the rice, give me the watch. This, what happened right now, we call it trade. So trade, to exchange something in for the other thing. Yani, like you are changing something for other thing. طيب, this thing happened all the time with the ancient people, with the Indian people, because at that time the Indian people become so poor. When the American came to America, they started their own business. They started to have the cattle. They started to sell the cattle for people, the cows for people, and they left the Indian as poor as you can ever imagine. So the Indian now, they are working under the American people, and they don't have enough money to buy food or to do anything. So they become so poor. So now the Indian, they are working under the American. طيب, the story today is about Tony. He's a young boy. He's working inside a shop and he doesn't have enough money. He has his aunt and his mom and his grandmother. Now he's working in that shop and in hope to accumulate enough money to have that money to buy a saddle. What is a saddle? This is a saddle, my girls.
And yellows and purples on
This is a saddle.
It's the thing that they put it on the horse.
Yes, excellent. It's the thing that they put on the horse so you can sit on it. Because without the saddle is so hard and it's kind of impossible to ride the horse because the horseback is slippery. If you try to hold yourself against it, you can't hold the horse and control it very well. But the saddle will make you sit very well without going left to right and right to left. So this is the saddle. The saddle that he wanted was made of leather, like this one. And so it was so beautiful. And what is done of that saddle? It was traded before, and the owner of the shop right now, he has it. Now Tony wants it back, but he doesn't have the enough money. So what he's doing, he's working for that owner of the shop to accumulate enough money and then to give him that money to take the saddle. طيب. Then
why does he want a saddle?
What?
Why does he want a saddle?
He needs it for his horse because his mother works in the horses. So he needs a saddle for himself. So he's trying, but he's a responsible person. He's trying to accumulate the money and to gather the money to give it for the man to take the saddle. But what happened is one day his grandmother came to the shop. She needed extra money for her family. Who's her family? Her daughter. She wants to give some money for her daughter because the husband of her daughter didn't have enough money to feed her family. So she went to the shop and she asked Tony, is the owner here? Yes, he is there. So what she did, she went inside and she said, please, we need some money, but I don't have anything to give you except this bracelet. It was turquoise bracelet. Turquoise bracelet. Turquoise bracelet, it's made of the blue rocks. At that time, the blue rocks in America was so rare that all the people of the Indian, they know how to make it, but the American, they don't know how to make it. So it was something like this with a big rock on it. She had it since her first generation, from her grandmother, grandmother, and then she found it. She has it for herself. Now she had to sell it for that shop. Give me some money instead of this bracelet, please. And the man took the bracelet and gave her the money. Tony was shocked. Grandmother, this bracelet is dear to your heart. Why you are selling it? She said nothing and she went outside. Tony was shocked and he went to his mom. Mom, my grandmother, she sold her bracelet. She likes it and now she sold it. The mother said, it's her business. I don't know why she wants this, but it's her own and she can do whatever she likes with it. I can't tell her anything. The grandmother took the money and gave it for her daughter, which is the aunt of Tony. Now the daughter had the money, but she didn't know where the grandmother had the money from. The grandmother was silent and she took herself and she slept at that day. But in the next day, she was so sick. Why? Because she was so sad on that one, on that piece of jewelry, because it's a dear to her heart. How she sold it like this, and she can't take it back because she doesn't have money, and they need the money because they are so poor. So she was thinking and thinking until she becomes sick, the poor lady. Tony saw her, and he knew that he has to do something. And he said, since my grandmother sacrificed her jewelry, the piece of jewelry that she liked the most, and she took it from her mother, then I will sacrifice the money that I gathered for a long time just to save that jewelry to give it back for my grandmother, because I can't see her sad like this. He went to the shop the next day and he asked the man, please give me the bracelet again. He said, no, you know the rules, that if you gave a trade for somebody, you have to wait for 6 months until you come to take it back. Otherwise, you can't ask me for. He said, come on, you know me, you know my family, and I need this bracelet. My grandmother is so sick. He said, okay, since it's your family, then I will do anything for your family. What do you need? You need the bracelet? Give me money. He said, I don't have money, but you have the money that you gathered from me. خلاص, take it and give me the bracelet. The man said, are you sure? He nodded his head and he said, yes, I don't have other choice. I have to sacrifice for my grandmother. He took the bracelet, give it back for the grandmother, and we didn't finish the story yet. Next time we will see what will happen to the grandmother. Do you think she will be awake and she will be happy again, or she will still sad and she will die?
Miss, I know.
Yes, Yatina.
She's gonna be happy, and then it's gonna be a good happily ever after.
Happily ever after.
You really thought I was about to say slap, did you?
Hopefully, wallah, the stories that end with the happiness
Miss-
is better than the stories that end with sadness and the gloom inside and stuff like that.
I love like those stories.
Yes,
But I
fine.
love when they like do another part of the story.
Okay, my girls, this is for the first part. I want you right now to open the beginning of the story to read it together. Yalla. I'm gonna pick the first one to read. Let me pick, my ladies. 1, 2, 3,
Wait,
4.
please.
Let's start
Me.
with Judy.
Miss
Judy رضا.
me, please.
جودي رضا يلا. جودي يا جودي يلا. جودي.
Miss, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Judy يلا. Let's start يا جودي. I want you to open the page 246 and start from the beginning.
Wait.
266, this one, sorry. This page. Can you see it? Can you see the page, يا جودي? Judy, did you open?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start.
From the start.
Yes. A dusty pickup.
A dusty pickup bounced along the rutted dirt road on the Navajo Indian
Navajo Indian Reservation
outside of Gallup, New Mexico. The early morning sun brought out deep the red hues in nearby rocks and yellows and purples on distant mesas. In the
Passenger, yes.
See, Tony barely noticed how to ride. Jostled him. He had made this long trip to Gallup with his mother. How many times? This morning, Tony daydreamed about spending some of his summer days at home on the river station. Instead of going into Gallup, he would ride with his father, helping to the tent. Families roaming flocks of sheep and goats. But Tony needed a saddle before he could sit for hours on the back of a pony.
Excellent. That's enough, ya Judy. Yalla, ya. Let's complete with Maria Al-Garni. In the trading post.
In the trading post next door to the restaurant where his mother was a waitress, Tony had discovered a beautiful used saddle for sale. Its dark leather was worn smooth, and there was small nuggets of turquoise laced into the rawhide braid wrapped around the horn. Mr. Hilson, the owner of the trading post, invited Tony to help out around the store. In payment, Mr. Hilson put $20 a week into an account for him. As soon as he earned enough money, Tony wanted to buy that saddle. He hoped
Saddle,
no
saddle,
one
not saddle. Saddle. Saddle.
saddle. He hoped no one else bought it first.
Excellent. That's enough, yeah, Maria. Let's continue with Amal. Amal, are you there? Amal is not there. طيب. Let's go with Jana.
Miss,
Jana?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, Jana. Complete,
Miss,
Jana,
can
the
you tell
next
me
page,
where-
please. Here we are. Said his mother.
Here we are. Here we are. Here we are, said his mother, as they parked in front of the trading post. Tony got out and slammed the truck door. The high desert wind fluttered the bandana covering his straight black hair. Come see me at lunchtime, his mother said. Tony waved as she walked toward the restaurant. The bell and the door jingled as Tony walked into the trading post. Good morning, Tony said. Mr. Hillson, today I need you to unpack some changed goods and stack them carefully on their store shelves. Then you can swipe out the storage area. It's really dusty back there. Okay, Mr. Hilson.
Excellent. That's
And
enough, yeah,
treat
Jana.
me.
Truck door.
That's enough, yeah, Jana. Okay, this is for today, inshallah. We are going to continue on Wednesday with the girls who didn't complete today, okay? Do you have any question for today before we
yes,
go?
I want you to hear something.
No.
I
Who's
want you to hear
asking?
something. Me.
Hi, Tina.
Like, right when it says today, like, you always say like how they say, you know? Remember when you, like, said that?
Said what? I didn't understand.
No, like when you say, like, make them, like, your voice, like, act like them when they say,
You mean in the story?
right?
Tina, you mean in the story? Because I didn't
It's like,
understand the
you
question.
told us,
She said that you
you
change your
told us,
tone for the character.
Ah, you mean changing the tone of of my voice when I speak because of the story?
yeah.
طيب, what about it? Huh? What is the question, طيب?
I can say it. I'm going to tell you how can I say it. Today, I needed to pack up some clean good and stack them carefully on the store shelf. Then you can swipe out of the storage area. It's really dusty back there, okay? Do you think that was good or bad?
Yes, it's good. But yalla, reply. Say, okay, Mr. Hilson. Change your voice.
Okay, Mr. Helson.
Yes, it's
Okay,
good.
Mr. Helson.
Yeah, try to change your tone to be a boy, which is Tony. He will say, okay, Mr. Hilson. And Mr. Hilson is the man who's asking him to do this stuff. Okay, since Mr. Hilson is a cowboy and he's a type of a white person, then he will probably speak like this. Today I need you to unpack some canned goods and stack them carefully on the store shelves. Then you can sweep up the storage area. It's real dusty back there. Okay, Mr. Hilson.
That sounds like a cowboy.
Yep.
You are so good.
What?
You're so good
I'm
at
sorry
the
for
voice
the
now.
Yeah, you should do like characters, and you start to imitate other people and to imagine yourself as a cowboy, imagine yourself as a little boy, imagine yourself like Indian. So every time you change your tone, you are creating a new personality in yourself, which is awesome. Okay, girls. I will see
Also
you
makes it
inshallah.
fun.
Yes, it makes it fun. Exactly. So, inshallah, I want you to practice this passage, yeah, Tina and everybody, with it changing the tone. Inshallah, when we read on Wednesday, I want you to read it in a beautiful way with the changing tones and with a loud voice. Okay? Deal?
Okay.
Okay. See you, inshallah, on
Okay.
Wednesday, and bye bye.
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 Bye.